Well, hello. Welcome back to the Scale My Shopify Store podcast. And Kath Langman here with you, your host on the show today. And super excited for today's episode. We're going to really dive into how you can drive your e-commerce growth through SEO in an AI-powered world. Now, obviously, the ultimate aim of an e-commerce business is to generate revenue, but the name of the game to achieve that is traffic, because without traffic first, without getting eyeballs onto your website, nothing else matters, and your business will remain the world's best kept secret. But not all traffic is equal, and getting quality traffic at a profit is harder than it used to be. To scale and grow a profitable online store, you really need a mix of all three kinds of traffic. So that's owned traffic, which comes from your own database, such as Klaviyo, paid traffic, which is pretty obvious, that's paid advertising, and earned traffic. So earning organic search traffic being the main strategy there for e-commerce. And you want to aim for a good 40% of your traffic and sales coming from organic sources. And when you do a really great job of this, you'll generally find that your conversion rate from this organic traffic is higher than most other channels, probably with the exception of your email marketing. But to get more organic traffic, though, requires working on SEO, search engine optimization. And unfortunately, this is an activity that you really need to work on regularly and consistently. It's also the kind of digital marketing that has evolved over time, quite a bit over the decades, really, as new technologies and platforms come into play, and also as consumer behavior changes. So today on the show, I've invited Karen from my team back onto the show. She's been on the show before, but not for a little while. And Karen is what I like to call an SEO queen, and she's going to share with us the details around the 5 SEO trends for e-commerce businesses in 2024 and how you can incorporate them into your marketing. And also I'm going to share a little bit about, some results that you can expect to happen when you do this. So without further ado, let's welcome Karen onto the show. Welcome back onto the show, Karen. So good to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I reckon that our first SEO episode on the podcast is probably still the most downloaded episode. So it's
That's good to know.
time to dive back into this topic. And we were just talking before, but you put some info together that we shared on socials just the other day about some of the top trends in SEO, and it's been a really popular social post. I mean, I think everybody knows it's very hard to get comments and shares on social media these days. But this one definitely piqued people's interests. So do you want to just list them out? What are these kind of trends in SEO for e-commerce?
So these 5 trends I'll be covering off today, and they're really nothing out there or brand new. This is something everybody should be doing in e-commerce for the last few years. But the 5 trends that's particularly important for 2024 to know about is that you should incorporate podcasts as well as blog writing. Number 2 is to spend some time on the less popular social media networks. Number 3 is the importance of brand building and how you can incorporate that in your SEO strategy. Number 4 is probably one a lot of people are curious about, and that is copywriting versus AI. Everybody likes using AI because it's a quick and easy.
Yes.
But there's some research showing us whether how you should be using AI and how you shouldn't. And then the last one, and this is probably the best news for 2024, is blog lengths. So don't need to write a whole novel anymore. Shorter forms of content are outrank longer forms of content. So that's a big win for everybody who wants to work on their SEO strategy this year.
No more 5,000 word mega blogs, hey?
No more.
Probably be a relief for a lot of people. Let's dive into each of them though. And I love the idea of starting with podcasts, seeing as that's what we're doing right now. So I would say podcasts are not very common yet for e-commerce businesses. So what's the deal here? Like, why should we be doing that in an e-commerce brand?
Well, if you think about how people are consuming podcasts these days, people tend to be multitasking more often. So they'll be washing the dishes or going for a walk, and then also simultaneously listening to a podcast. There's that opportunity to attract and engage customers in that way. I would say podcast needs to be really on topic and obviously add value. It's a little bit tricky in e-commerce when you sell something, but for example, if you're sell kids lunch boxes, you can talk about the new trends in what size lunchbox to get, which lunch bag fits in which lunchbox, and these are all very topics that mums with kids would be very curious about, and it would add a lot of value. To give you a bit of statistics, there are over 1 billion blogs on the internet currently, and there are only 7.8 billion people in the world, and not all of them can or will be reading. So that is almost one blog for every person. It's an insane amount of content.
Yeah.
And in comparison, there's only 4.2 million podcasts in the world. So there's not as many. The competition's are a lot better. Plus, you're also people are more likely to listen to podcasting to read a blog, because the way we are consuming content these days are a lot different than how we used to 10 years ago. It doesn't mean podcasts should replace blogs. There's still a place for blogs, and ideally you would, when you have a blog, written blog or idea for content, you would try and have a podcast alongside that blog, and the blog can obviously advertise that there's a podcast on the matter if you don't feel like reading it, or likewise you can have just a short podcast and say, for more information please go read the blog.
Yeah, that's cool. And so just the idea that you can get you're probably going to get different people consuming the same or similar content, because people have different preferences when it comes to, video or audio or written kind of content that they love. So, and, way less competition, of course. With the volume of blogs, I had no idea. That's insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Also, I think on the podcast matter, it's really important to have a look at your customer avatar, because if your customer avatar is quite young, then you would have a bit more success than if you were to be, selling products for an older generation who are used to consume content by reading it. So that's always a consideration when you decide whether or not to start a podcast, is to have a look at your customer avatar and to do a bit of research and see which topics they're interested as well.
Yeah. One question that this is a little off the cuff and I didn't give you any warning, but hopefully it's easy. We had a question on the social media post about this topic, about can you optimize podcasts for search like you can with blogs? I mean, obviously you can when you've shared that content on your website, like you can optimize that web page the same way that you would have. So I don't know that there's a huge amount of opportunity to optimize content on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but whenever I search for stuff in there, they must pull keywords from titles and from descriptions. So maybe it's similar to YouTube or something like that, where you put that description in and that sort of thing.
So it would just be, think about, for example, Spotify as another search engine. So of course, it would help to add some keywords in your podcast headings, because people will be searching for topics that are relevant. And Spotify as well has topics by relevance. So it also has an algorithm where if you listen to certain podcasts by certain people, it would give you suggestions to other podcasts that you might be interested in. So it is really important to also leverage that and to consider what you name your podcast or your podcast name, and then as well as individual podcasts that you post on your channel.
Yeah, cool. Love it. So second on the list was less popular or less frequented social media channels.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't tell you this before, but just yesterday I was actually doing some research as to find out what are the most popular social media platforms in 2024, and in terms of the number of regular daily users, and Facebook still comes out on top. I think WhatsApp was the second one, actually. Can't remember now, but
yeah, so this one, I know as a small business owner, we're wearing a lot of hats, and there's a lot of software and new technology and always something new technical you have to learn. So it's quite daunting to start a podcast, or daunting to start another social media channel, because that time's got to come from somewhere.
yeah.
And you are correct. Facebook and Instagram are by far still the most popular social media channels, and they also have the most members, but they also have the most competition. So by using these other less popular channels, you're one step ahead of your competitors, because they haven't reached out into that social media channel. We also look at the origin of Facebook and also Instagram, and how easy it used to be to advertise on those platforms versus trying to generate the same return on investment in the current market. There's a lot more competition. It's more difficult. A lot of companies built their whole business 10 years ago on social media, whereas now you post weekly or daily or 3 times a day and you barely get a like or a comment. So you can kind of imitate that model again on the lesser popular social networks. It does mean that you have to go and relearn or learn another channel. I also think it's really important to again go back to your customer avatar, see which channels they look at every day, which channels they like to frequent, and also the type of content they like to see. For example, TikTok is quite popular at the moment, but some of the reels will be obviously a lot more popular than others. So if you're going to learn a new channel, do the research before just posting, and just hoping for the best. So
yeah. I would also say, in the context of, this, if we're thinking in the broader scope of an SEO strategy or a traffic strategy generally, the efforts here are different for trying to attract a new audience versus bringing back an existing customer base. And, if you're going to add in a new platform, like which of those two is your goal here? And so if it's about new customers, then where are they going for the kind of content that is going to lead to a new brand discovery? Because some platforms just aren't, some platforms are more about that kind of retargeting element. I'd say probably Pinterest is more like that than potentially a brand discovery, although probably differs for product to product. But yeah, the sort of content that people might consume, you need to think about that in the buyer journey, I guess.
Yeah, definitely consider that. And then what was the one thing I wanted to finish off with? Oh, it was the rule of 7, which I think you're also talking about. So this follows into brand building, but there is that rule of 7 that people will need to see at least 7 times before they start trust you to make a purchase. And for that reason, when you start a new channel, for example, TikTok, and you're driving a lot of traffic to your store, but in Google Analytics, you're noticing that the conversion rate of that traffic channel is not as high as, for example, paid Facebook ads, don't feel disheartened. See it as a, a way to generate new customers to your store, and then having that touch points in all your other channels so that they eventually become a customer.
Yeah, definitely. On that note, we in our client group, in our academy group, are doing a content challenge this month, and we've been talking about that this week. But really just, it is, like you said before, learning a new platform, trying to figure out where you should be putting your time and your efforts with content creation and all of that kind of stuff. It is an effort. And so, trying to maximize the return on that effort is pretty key there. So rather than everyone just putting it in the too hard basket or I'll do it later basket, we're going to be doing this challenge this month in our group. So I'm really excited about that because I'm going to be doing it too.
We're never too old to learn something new. So
gosh, no. As much as my teenagers do like to tease me about having my phone, but that's okay. So that leads us into the next one on your list, which I think was brand building. And why is that important more so now in 2024 for your search or SEO strategy?
So research is showing that brand name search related queries are on the rise, which indicates that customer loyalty is also on the rise, which is a good thing. Again, when you feel disheartened with TikTok, think about once you get that customer to purchase once, it's very likely that they will continue because the trend is showing that. You'll also notice when you do, for example, start a new channel, or if you spend a lot of money on your ad spend, that often your organic search queries also rise. And that's because people would see you on Facebook or they'll see you on TikTok and then later go and look for you in organic search. So there's also that metric just to be aware of. If your organic search is going great, but you haven't really been working on SEO, it can often just be an indication that your ads are really performing well, or maybe TikTok is generating a lot of good traffic that eventually decide to go and Google and look for you. It also works the other way around. If you do, for example, rank really well for, let's use kids' lunch boxes, and someone lands on your store, they would often go and click on your social media links on your website to see if you do have a social media following. So you have to have that big brand awareness, brand building strategy in place, because people will only really trust you if they find you if they see, oh yes, they've got an Instagram account, Facebook account, they have posts regularly, and it also impacts your organic ranking because the Google algorithm actually looks for those other channels as well. A lot of spamming websites won't go to the effort of setting up those accounts, so it's a way for Google to differentiate between good quality website and a phishing website at this stage. I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can incorporate the brand building into your SEO strategy. So the number one and the easy one that comes to mind is to write blogs that would add value. A company that does this really well is Keep & Co, and they've built most of their business online by writing blogs. So they have blogs about the founder, the member, and you'll see those blogs are all beautifully curated. So if it's about the founder, she'll be wearing Keep & Co clothes, she'll be in her house with Keep & Co bedding, and they'll still promote these products, but they have a whole brand persona and brand voice, and they train their customers to expect emails with links to these types of blogs. It almost becomes like a curated a magazine that people look forward to reading. So that's the obvious one to do, is to incorporate more of your brand personality, your brand persona in your blog writing. If you were to publish, for example, if you're a kids clothing brand and you have a winter and spring season, and you would have a blog every season about your favorite prints, for example, and the inspiration about the print. So people wouldn't necessarily purchase from those blogs. They can, but it's more about communicating with your customer and letting them know more about, behind the scenes kind of content.
Yeah, I love the idea of the brand personality and really showcasing that in all of the content. And Kip and Co certainly do a really good job of that, that's for sure.
Very, very good job. They get a lot of organic search traffic, which is amazing, because we all know that's for free.
Exactly.
So we definitely want more of that.
100%.
I have some other ideas as well. So for your brand building, and this is a very simple, easy one, and everybody should be doing this, is if you look at your, especially in Shopify and in WordPress, every single page on your website will have a meta title or SEO title. And that should be primarily your keyword, followed by pipe, and then your company name. So research also shows that the click-through rate is usually higher for a meta title that contains a company name, because people start recognizing that name and it builds trust.
Yeah.
So that's a really easy one to go have a look at all your products, all your collections, your homepage. Does it contain your company name? The third one is blog features and collaboration. So if you have any other friends in business and you have like-minded customers, maybe, write a blog that her, or his or her customer base would be interested in, and have a feature on their website, and then do one in return for her. So this is kind of a free form of PR, and all it would cost is basically your time. Which number 4 is PR, is trying to get some publicity. That's always a great one. It's very hard to get, and you can spend a lot of time on that one. So it might be easier to do a collaboration instead. And then also gift guides. There's a lot of websites where you can pay for PR. And normally if it's a gift guide for Easter or Christmas, it's normally not as expensive as a full feature. And then the last one is to write your own content. So don't use AI, because you can write the content in your brand's voice, your brand's personality, and be a bit more in control of what, how the blog reads and what information it contains.
Yeah, and the selection of words sometimes I see coming out of Chat GPT, it's repetitive. So it's not, I think readers can sometimes tell, because it doesn't feel like it's been written by the author in inverted commas.
Yeah.
I did want to give a little shout out, and this is completely a just unsolicited praise from me. There's a platform called Linkby, Linkby, and it is a platform to get that sort of PR, where you can get articles published on some major media publications and things like that. And it is a pay to play thing, but it's from memory, I believe it's a pay per click. And I know that we've had some clients who've scored some amazing articles in some really big top level, media publications and things like that. And, it's priceless, really. It doesn't cost them much. So that kind of coverage is great for brand building, for sure. Yeah, love it. So let's dive into the whole AI versus human written content, though, because I know, it's so tempting to go, okay, I need to write a blog on, it's how to get ready to go back to school, or I need to write a blog on, whatever the topic. It doesn't even matter what the topic is, but there's so many of our audience, they find it really hard to sit there and write content, and it's so tempting to just put in a search query into Chat GPT and then go copy, paste, done. So tell everyone what's the deal here?
Uh, um, yeah, no one's gonna like this answer. So like I previously said, there are over 1 billion blogs out there, and we shouldn't be adding to those blogs just for the sake of adding to them. Um, Most AI software uses whatever's already out there. So we'll scrape the internet and put a piece together. So basically, all you're doing is rewashing what is already out there. There's an interesting statistic where in 2023, and this will shift, it will become easier to use AI to write blogs, that 94% of the time, human written content will outrank AI written content.
94%. Did you?
94% of the time.
Wow. Okay. That's fairly convincing.
So in SEO, it would be a lot better if you produce less content and that content was of a good quality and it mattered. So if you're really time scrapped and you don't have time for blog writing, do 2 blogs a year instead of saying I need to produce a blog every month, Google likes, consistent posting of new content, and therefore just use AI to produce this low quality content that's already out there that doesn't add any value to the internet or to your business or to your customers. So that would be my, out of everything for 2024, that is my biggest tip. Write your own content. Don't use AI. If you want to use AI, use it to do research. Even write your own content, put it through AI, check for grammatical errors. But sometimes that human error or that grammatical error resonates really well with your customers as well. People like conversational language these days. They prefer that over proper English. So don't be afraid. Just put the content out there, write it. What would your English teacher say? Write it, review it, edit it, improve it, and then publish it.
I think that and this is what I've been sharing with our clients, is that, using a tool like ChatGPT, it can help you with some of that brainstorming of ideas. It can, there's some good tools out there like CoSchedule, for example, for helping to refine subject lines and give you ideas of, more impactful or engaging words that might mean the same thing. But it's never a cut and paste thing. I think we should, if we're one person, we're working on our own in a, solo operator trying to stare at a white blank document to start writing, that is hard. So using the tools for brainstorming can be helpful, but like you say, it's just if you copy and paste, you're just rehashing the same content that's already published, and that's not adding value out there really at all. So you've got to put your own spin on it, your own personality, your own opinions, and all of that sort of stuff. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly. What is the point? I think before you press publish, you should always ask that question. What is the point with this piece of content? What am I trying to achieve? And if it's just so that you can please Google and put a new piece of content out there, don't bother. It's never going to generate the results that you are hoping for.
Yep. Good advice.
There is some good news, and that is that, again, you can write shorter pieces of content, and also old content repurposed counts as new content too. So if you're really short on time, maybe incorporate in your SEO strategy, and I reckon you should incorporate this anyway, is 1 month publish a blog, and then the next month go through your blogs or your information pages and make sure all the content's up to date, add a few more images, add a few more links, edit the meta title, meta description, publish it and re-index to Google Search Console. And you'll notice not only will that affect the ranking of that page, but your whole website in general, Google will see that you keep old content up to date and will
Interesting.
rank you accordingly.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Something, I don't know whether this is a good practice or not, but something I've found myself doing a little bit recently is thinking about, there are some channels of your marketing that you need to produce content for more frequently. For example, social media, and then maybe email might be next, and then, content for blogs or podcasts in my case, or other website content usually a bit less frequently than that. But it's like this kind of virtuous cycle. There'll be a piece on one of those channels that gets really great engagement. And so then I'll be like, okay, well, how can I emulate that topic, but maybe in a different way that suits the other channels, and vice versa. And, for example, the other day we shared these few little tips about SEO on social media, and it was very short form content, but it got a lot of engagement. So obviously here we are today having this conversation. So, whether that's also helps with being a little bit more time efficient, perhaps.
Yes, absolutely. If you write a piece of content, especially blog content, you can repurpose that for an email or for social media. So you kind of have this one idea, and you can just break it up into the type of content people would normally consume on those channels. So obviously you wouldn't want to publish that whole blog post on social media or on your email.
No one's going to read that.
No.
So I think I probably do have a reputation of writing very long emails that I should probably be a bit more sometimes. I am a writer and a reader. I can't help it sometimes. I was also just thinking about how, the whole shorter blog length that you mentioned is now outranking longer blog length. Somebody actually commented on our social post about that too, and asked, why is that the case? And do we have any, data to back that up? And it's like, well, it's not hard to find the data, of course, but, why is that the case? I mean, I'm assuming it's because too many of us are so trained to watch these short videos on TikTok and Instagram reels.
Yes.
Nobody's got an attention span anymore.
Yes, that's correct. We've been retrained by or brainwashed by TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook Reels
Yeah.
to consume shorter form of content. And we consume actually more content, but we consume for example, a person would consume about 95 pieces of content a day. So think about if that was a 3,000 word blog, you would be spending your whole day reading. So
Yeah.
our attention spans are a lot shorter. We want to be entertained. We are trained by TikTok and by Instagram Reels to be entertained, and how easy is it to swipe to the next one. So think about when you write content as well, is this something someone will find useful or entertaining or educational, that they will actually sacrifice other content to read this, because we only have an infinite amount of time.
I'm pretty sure my teenage sons would watch all of that content on the toilet with their real I love
another great area for a podcast, to listen to a podcast.
I'll leave that to the teenage boys, I reckon. I love the idea of edutainment. I don't know whether I heard that phrase or I coined it myself, but I've used it for a little while now because I feel like it kind of sums up the sort of content that people would be engaged enough to either read or watch, but that also is, giving them something useful about your brand and your product, so that, they might be more likely to respond to an ad that invites them to buy.
Yeah.
Because we're not just here to entertain. I mean, that's, otherwise we'd go into the entertainment business. We need to sell the product. Yeah. So good. I wanted to, kind of finish up-ish with a comment to you, Karen, because I know you helped devised this strategy, but also to our listeners. So one of our clients, I'm not going to name names, but we prepared her. So she's in our mastery program, and we prepared her audit and her strategy would have been in December, and she really started implementing it just in January after she got through the Christmas rush. And so we're recording this on the 1st of Feb. So she's just finished January, and she has only implemented the website conversion rate optimizations and the SEO work. She hasn't gotten to, like, she already had email flows and ads running and all of that kind of stuff, and they need work, but she hasn't changed them yet. And already her revenue is up like more than 25% from the same period last year.
Wow.
Which is pretty short when you think about it. That's a very
In a
short,
month.
yeah.
And
So
January is notoriously a little bit slow when it comes to e-commerce as well.
and it's certainly not her high season. So um, I was super impressed. And I think that even though people feel like SEO is techie and it takes a long time and it doesn't shift the needle for a long time, I think the evidence for me is otherwise. It is, and certainly when you want to scale fast, you want to pour oil on the fire, so to speak, and put money into ads, that's for sure. But you shouldn't be doing it at the exception of this work and this SEO sort of strategy. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in. Thanks, Karen.
No worries.
Any last comments for our listeners before we finish up?
I have a short 12 tips for blog writing. I'll
Go for
quickly run through that. So, number one is purpose. What is the purpose of your piece of content? Is it there to educate the customers? Is it there to entertain them? Is it there for brand building? Is it there because you want to rank for a certain keyword? So always start there and find out why you want to produce this piece of content. Then the second one is keyword research if you haven't already. So if you're writing a value adding blog or a brand building blog, go do a little bit of keyword research to see if there are any keywords that you can incorporate into this piece. Third one is structure. Spend time on mapping out your blog. What do you want to go where? What's the headings? Headings play such an important part in SEO. So definitely spend time on the structure. And number four was headings. Make sure those keywords are repeated in your headings. Number five, and this is an easy one. Again, people prefer conversational English over proper English. Short, sharp sentences, short paragraphs, even one sentence per paragraph. Make it easy for people to read. Images, lots of them, many as you can. But don't forget the file names and the alt text, or linking them to the appropriate product pages, because somebody might just read your blog, be
Yep.
interested in the product on that image, and then if you link that to the product, they might actually purchase it. Video content, thank you, TikTok and Instagram. Make sure you include video content, because that is the preferred way to consume content these days. Lots and lots of anchor links. Not only do they help search engines to crawl your website, index your blogs, they transfer link juice. Plus, again, they make it easier for customers if they are reading and consuming your content, they want to make a purchase to find that product they're interested in. Meta titles, meta descriptions, they are incredibly important in SEO. And in so many of small businesses don't spend any time of them. Make sure, again, your company name is in there. Make sure the keywords in there. Keep the description short, keep it concise, and think if I were to read this, if I would click through and go read that piece of content. Lots of internal links. When you publish a blog, don't just leave it. Go back to your old blogs and say you might also be interested in this topic, link to the new blog. If the blog is about a key product you sell, add a link from your collection page. It says you might be interested to learn more about this product. We've written a blog about it. Backlinks, if the blog is of such great quality, you might be able to reach out to some of your collaborators or perhaps send some of this information to PR or media websites that might be interested in this content. Often, if the piece is of such good quality, they won't even ask you to pay for that feature because they are looking for free content to publish as well. And then lucky last is to leverage your other channels at your disposal to drive traffic to that new post. So make sure you post about it on social media, on your emails. And if it's a blog that it converts very well, so it's got lots of products in it, you might even want to send traffic to that page. And normally traffic ads are a little bit cheaper than retargeting ads.
Yeah, love it. So good. And for anyone who's watching the video of us having this conversation, little popcorn, the oodle and across the background. Just checking that we're keeping it real here. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, amazing value. I hope that all the listeners have really enjoyed this episode. I think it might end up ranking up there with the other downloaded. So thank you for jumping on with me today, Karen. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right, listeners, that's all we have for you this week. And if you would like to get Karen's help or my help with growing your business, please feel free to book in for a free strategy call with us. You can do that at productpreneurmarketing.com/let's-talk. No doubt Karen will tell me I could do a better job with the URL. That's okay. You get on the podcast page and you can go from there. Thanks, listeners. We'll be back with you on the show next week. Bye for now.